Hello, this is Vedat from Programmership. Today we are gonna talk about inheritance. Inheritance allows us to create a class that can be derived from another class. We cannot use inheritance in structure. It is used in classes. Derived class known as child or subclass, and the class that is derived from also known as parent or superclass. Child class can use parent class properties methods. It can also override those methods and properties. A child class can only derive from one parent class, not more than one. So it is time to make an example and see how it works. I'm gonna create a class called father. Let's say class father. And here, let's put some property. Let's say var wealth is equal to, say, 1 million. And let's say var car is equal to, this time I'm going to define a string. Let's say Bugatti. So let me create an initializer for our class. So it will be an empty initializer. Finally, let me create a method. Let's say func use car. And inside the method, I'm gonna print some statement. Let's say father's car was used. Now, I want to create another class that will be derived from our father class. Let's name it as child class. Class child. To derive from the father class, we must add a colon at the end of the child name and then call the parent class, which is father. At first, I wanted to leave child class empty, so we'll see what we can do with the child class. Let's create an instance of child class. Here at the bottom, let's say var my son is equal to child. And here, let's say my son dot, and we can see the car property, the wealth property, and use car method, which were defined in the father class. So that means we can use our father's money and car. We can access those properties and methods within the child class definition. So now let's add some property and method inside the child class. I will also override the father's use car method. For that, we will use override keyword. Inside the child class, let's say var motorcycle is equal to Kawasaki. And at the bottom, let's say func use motorcycle, and inside I'm gonna say print child motorcycle was used. So here, to override the father class use car method, first I'm gonna use the override keyword for that purpose, and then we'll type the use car method. And inside the overridden use car method, let's say print father's car was used by child. Well, when we try to access the use car method from the child class, it will call the overwritten use car method. Here with the mySon instance, let's run the mySon.useCar and see which print statement will work, this or this. Let's hit run. We can see it shows the output of the overwritten method. If I delete this and hit run again, we can see the father's car was used, which is the method of father class. So it is also possible to call the parent class method or properties. Here in the child class, let's try to call father's use car method within the overwritten use car method. To access the parent class method, we can use super keyword. Super keyword indicates that the Swift compiler will look at the parent class definition. So let me call the parent class method super dot. Take a look at that. We can see the father's car property, wealth property, and the use car method. Let's say use car, and here I'm gonna run the mySon.useCar again. Hit run, and there we go. First, the super.useCar method was executed, and after that, the print statement inside the overwritten useCar was executed. Well, what about overriding a property of a parent class? It is quite simple when we define a computed property. I already explained computed property in the class and structure chapter. You can take a look at that. So let's change father class wealth property into computed property. Through that, let's define the wealth type, which is integer, and open a curly bracket. Inside, I just return the value. And don't forget to close the curly bracket. Here we basically define a computer property which returns some integer value when it is called. And inside the child class, the only thing we need to do is just write override and copy the father property and paste it. And that's it. We just overwrite the father class wealth property. But to understand the difference, let's change the return value. Let's say 2 million. Now at the bottom, inside the my son instance, let's try to print the my son dot wealth. Let's hit run. And we can see the overwritten wealth property inside the child class was printed out. So if I comment this line and hit run again, this time we can see the father's wealth property, which is 1 million, was printed out. You might be wondering if it is possible to access child class motorcycle or use motorcycle method within the father class. No, we cannot access it because father class doesn't know about child class. It is also possible to create another class and derive it from our child class. Let's do that. Let's create a new class. And this time, I want to call it as grandchild, which makes sense. And it is derived from our child class. And let's leave it as empty and let me delete this. I'm gonna create an instance of grandchild class and see which property and method are available for us. Let's say var my grandchild is equal to grandchild. At the next line, let's say my grandchild dot, look at that. We can see all the property of the child class and the father class. Let's try to print all of them. Let's say print my grandchild dot wealth, print my grandchild dot car. Let's say print my grandchild dot motorcycle and print my grandchild dot use motorcycle, and finally let's print my grandchild dot use car. And we can delete this line. Let me hit run. And here we can see all the property and method was executed. That means grandchild class can access the child class and the parent of the child class, which is father class. Alright, this is basically how inheritance works in Swift. I hope you have learned something in this chapter. See you in the next one. Goodbye.